Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode here at the Portcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us today. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Wayne Winston, Bridgeport resident.
All right, so you grew up here in Bridgeport?
Absolutely, on the south end, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Now, I see that you're actually a professional photographer.
Absolutely.
And how did you get into photography?
It was always a hobby. And, once you start shooting stuff, you figure out whether you love it or whether you don't. So it wasn't my first love, that came later. My first love was DJing. So I was around DJing a lot, man. A lot of people know me from that. So we go back to the clubs that was kicking back in the day. I was one of those guys that were out there representing Bridgeport and even all the way up to New York. So photography did come later.
Okay. And so from photography, that led to you creating your own business called Face of Beauty Model Team.
Yes, that was wound up being a combination of things. Being in the DJ business is an entertainment aspect to it. And I found that when I had a chance to shoot models, I was working with a couple of companies, that there was a lot that didn't get a chance to get to that stage, and even, how to be involved. You have places like John Casablanca and they numbers and Barbizon, and they charge you $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, but they never really put you out into where the public can see you like a real fashion show. And so I was fortunate enough to work with a couple of people that were in the business that were actually connected with Harlem Fashion Week, which is the largest outdoor show in New York. And Deb Williams, who is the founder and creator of this event, man, she has done a tremendous job bringing people to the table, and I mean designers from all over the world. And the only criteria is you just have to have the skill set and the desire. Black women in particular, women of color, have had a struggle in the fashion industry. And being able to have people of color, it's very much like what happened in Hollywood with the actors. When they had the movement of Hollywood was too white, kicked off with Jada Pinkett, Spike Lee, and it's had a great impact. And we need to do something similar on the side when it comes to the fashion industry. So we enjoy giving, women and men the opportunity to get on that stage, and there's a ton of designers that have clothes for them. It's no longer you have to be 90 pounds and 5'10".
Okay, so from DJ to photographer and social activist, how did you get into that?
Wow, I think the social activist came first.
Okay.
I was actually recruited by the local NAACP president, Carolyn Nas, as a matter of fact. I would see Carolyn in different places, and she says, you need to come to an NAACP meeting. And I was like, okay, like really? She's like, yeah, you need to come. I think you could do good stuff there. Now, prior to that, there was a white gentleman who was part of an organization called the Young Democrats. He was running the Democrats, and I was kind of like, okay, what's that all about? He brought me a little bit, so I had a little bit of background on organizational stuff, dealing with the Young Dems. It's important to vote and so on and so forth. But going to the NAACP meeting, I saw where it affected our people directly and the issues that were going on in our community. And it just felt like a good fit. And me, I'm someone that thinks like, how do you solve a problem rather than run away from a problem? I'm good at administration stuff and working with people. So just kind of fell into that to the point where I probably serve most of the seats that are to be had in the NAACP, so labor industrial, I was a communications chair. This is primarily at the Bridgeport NAACP. I served some seats on the state NAACP. And it's really a phenomenal organization. And we did a tremendous amount of work. And now there's still a lot to be done. People know historically what's with Thurgood Marshall and so on, and Dr. King. But they gave us the opportunity. As an activist, I think it's my job to share that. And whether people accept it or not, I've done my job to make sure that they understand that, because in the end, if we don't get out and get that vote done, and we believe that they're correct, or we believe we're powerless, we are, and they win.
All right, so as a community activists, one of the roles is to lead the underserved group of individuals to a better quality of life. So what is your relationship, or is that the reason why you are part of the Harriet Tubman Learning Center?
Oh boy, that's a yeah, it kind of fell into that, and how I met the descendants and the I think the most prolific and the one probably closest you're going to get was at a Juneteenth event, actually about 8 or 9 years ago. Juneteenth does an awesome job every single year. I invite everybody to support Juneteenth wherever you are. The one that was for Fairfield County, just about 8 or 9 years ago, had Rita Daniels and her mom as the guests. They also had Cab Calloway's daughter. So it was pretty cool. They had some other abolitionist families there. But for some reason, it's like Harriet Tubman was one of my heroes. I mean, throughout in history, think about what that was, man. This woman walked through states. It's mind-boggling that she took people with her, went back again at least 30 times. Now some say more. She became one of my favorites, just thinking of the courage that it took, the persistence that it took, and to be able to just walk that far and bring people to a better life and then create something beyond that. You know, she became a spy for the North, you know, because she knew what was going on down there. One of the biggest wars, she was an underground spot. They thought that she was just a black woman and too stupid. They couldn't figure out her name. They thought it was a man doing all this stuff. So when I'm seeing them, I'm thinking of these things, knowing that history, and they turned out to be, Rita and her mom turned out to be like two of the most like wonderful, down-to-earth people. And they had just started something called the Harriet Tubman Learning Center down in Powder Springs, and they worked with youth. And their goal was to understand that Harriet Tubman never had a formal education. So they're very adamant about getting behind organizations and being a part of making sure that kids within their community had a shot at getting a formal education. So they created their own programs and had an organization there and so on. And it was the Harriet Tubman Learning Center. There's a Black History museum that just opened up in Stratford, Ruby Calvin Fletcher, put together by their son, Jeff Fletcher. And he had artifacts from his mom. You know, she passed away, and he took up, you know, her passion. And at first he didn't understand it, but he wound up creating the first Black History Museum in New England. This thing is phenomenal. It takes you through the civil rights movement. It starts at the beginning or in Africa. And the people that go through it, you know, black or white, they learn so much from it. Even something like this, and why this type of thing is important that you're doing. If people read this right, it's something that they'll share. If they understand it, you know, these are the voices that need to be heard in order for us not to just support one another, but to understand how we got where we are. So I was also friends with Emmett Till's family. I literally brought them to the University of Bridgeport about 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And she came, spoke on behalf of her family. She has a book, it's signed and so on. And they were making sure that the legacy continued.
Anti-Racism Coalition, your organization, have been talking about issues the Black community have been going through for years. Do you mind speaking about that?
Yes. The Anti-Racism Coalition, I have a tendency to say when I see something happen, it's like I have to try to fix something. I have to try to do something. So when George Floyd came about, we were already pretty much fed up in this country about what was going on. And we had people who were killed in line at Wendy's for falling asleep. We had brothers and older gentlemen, shot in the back running away from the police. But there was always an excuse. And so that starts the whole movement. We are being killed. We are being marginalized. We are being overlooked. Black Lives Matters. Don't do this to us. We're human beings just like you. So that's a given. In fact, everybody's life matters. I mean, there's no reason to put that out, but something was going wrong when it came to black people. And that's why black people got together and said, Black Lives Matter.
Thanks to Mr. Wayne Winston for coming on to the podcast. For more of Wayne, please tune into WICC 600, A Different Perspective with Lisa Wexler, where you can find Wayne speaking on social issues. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. Thank you.